July 17th, 2023 meeting of the Cogf Zba Zoning Board of Appeals. Our first order of business is to approve the June 20th, 2023 minutes. I'd ask for a second.
Make a motion.
I think I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. I was not here last month, so I understand. Roll call. Anton. Yes. Aye. Just to approve the minutes.
Yes.
Aye. Okay. Steve.
Aye.
Abstain. Aye. Okay. And Allison.
Abstain.
Okay. So form.
That's only for a vote, so motion carries relative to approval of the minutes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Old business, we have none. New business. First order of business is there a number on this?
Use variance 23-0002,
Andrew, if you could approach and state your name and your address for the minutes.
My name is Andrew Cogf. I live at 185 Bay Street, Glens Falls, New York.
Okay. I see we are seeking a use variance for 14 Grand Street. Can you tell us a little bit about your application?
Yeah, so 14 Grand Street is a 4-unit on Grand in Glens Falls. As far as I can tell, it's been a 4-unit as early as, what I can prove is it's been a 4-unit as early as 1976. I believe it's possible it was a 4-unit earlier than that. There's currently 4 rented apartments in there. The reason for seeking this is the property is currently in the middle of it's under contract for sale, both the bank and now it looks like the title company is looking to just make sure that the property can continue existing in its current status.
So it's possible that this was a pre-existing non-conforming use?
So my belief is that this was converted into a 4-unit before Grand Street was zoned to be a two-family. That's my belief. I don't know when Grand Street switched from being less restricted to being more restrictive, but I can prove back 47 years, and it's been in continuous use for, as far as I can tell, 47 years as a 4-unit.
You provide us with some historical.
Yes, I went to the basement of Crandall Library. It was very nice down there.
And you're not the owner, correct?
No, so I am the buyer's agent. Joe Ramos is the seller. I've received his permission to come here and work through this. Both parties are pretty interested in getting this because one would like to sell it, the other would like to own it. Like he wanted to own it a couple months ago, but it's okay.
Do we need anything as far as documentation to show Mr. Cox standing as the agent?
Yeah, and that was provided in the packet.
Okay.
There was a letter signed by the state agent. Yes.
Okay, great.
Owner permission letter is provided in the packet.
Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Did you discuss the possibility of getting a zoning compliance letter letter of zoning compliance from the zoning
It's in
officer?
the packet.
Yeah, so tried to do that, got a denial. Now we're here.
That's, so there's something called,
Mhm.
you provided all the documentation required for a zoning,
Mhm.
or a code enforcement officer to provide you with a letter of zoning compliance, basically saying exactly what you said. This has been in use since 1970, whatever. We don't have documentation otherwise that this was an illegally created unit,
So,
as opposed to getting a use variance.
yeah, so that document that you're talking about is in my packet, and it does not say enough to, the building, they basically, I was directed by building codes to come here because they felt that a zoning compliance letter was not going to be sufficient.
Sufficient as proof that it's a.
So building and codes did not feel they had enough information to make a determination either way.
I imagine that's this letter is.
That's,
I didn't get that in mind.
And-
Dated June 15, 2023 from Philip Cancelleri, Code Enforcement Officer.
Do you have any other questions? I would be inclined to approve this motion, or to make a motion to approve this application.
You should do secret first, right?
Okay.
Are you just having a discussion with the board, or are you moving on?
I think we're ready to move on.
Okay.
So, seeker,
So
Public.
I'm sorry,
Public comment.
do we need to, is there anyone in the public who would like to comment on this?
anyone online?
Okay.
All right, so with respect to seeker, I would classify this as an unlisted action. The applicant has completed the short environmental assessment. The board has to review the part 2 and answer the questions. So number 1, will the proposed action create material conflict with adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? No or small impact. Number 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of the land? No?
No.
Is that no? Okay, you have to answer.
Okay,
first.
so I'm sorry.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
No. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affecting existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
No. Will the proposed action create an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonable, available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
No. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies?
No.
No. Public-private wastewater treatment utilities? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna?
No.
No. Number 10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
No. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No. Based upon the review of the short environmental impact assessment, the board could declare itself lead agency and issue a negative declaration. So someone needs to make your secret motion first.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that the Glens Falls zoning board of appeals hereby accepts lead agency status for this application at 14 Graham Street. Do I need to say the number?
No,
Okay.
you listed the address, 14 Grand Street, Glens Falls, New York. The applicant is Andrew Cogf on behalf of the owner, Joseph Ramos.
The board has determined the action to be unlisted action and has reviewed for the short form, has reviewed the short form environmental assessment, and upon the documentation and discussion, issues a negative declaration.
So you need a second.
Second.
I'll second.
Anton? Roll call? Or?
You don't need a roll call for seeker, just all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Any
opposed? Any abstain?
Nope.
Seeker is completed.
Thank you. All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the application for a use variance at 14 Grand Street to allow 4 apartments in the zone that is normally zoned for 2. Let's see. As presented at this meeting on July 17th, pursuant to the following criteria shown by the applicant, that the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return. The lack of return is substantial as demonstrated by competent financial evidence, and qualifying that by saying that it would be economically damaging to reduce the number of apartments from 4 to 2. The hardship relating to the property is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion to the district or neighborhood. It's unique in that we don't have records that it was created as a 4-unit prior to zoning. That's the unique circumstance. The requested use variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and the hardship has not been self-created. Let's see, do
Is there a second?
I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay. What's my wording again?
Roll call vote.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 No.
The motion,
The motion is approved, you need 4 affirmative votes to grant the use variance. So your variance is granted.
motion is provided. Thank you very much.
Does that get like printed? Do I get that somewhere? And can I pick it up at the clerk's office?
I'm gonna pass the resolution on.
Okay, I'll be here.
I
Oh,
know.
all right. See you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, I'm just gonna look through this as best I can, I'm sorry. All right.
He's not here.
You're number 3 on my list, so you're the next one
Yeah.
after this, yeah.
I was just looking around like, am I in the right
Yeah,
place?
you're in the right place.
Where's Jeff?
I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Is Ethan not coming tonight?
Excuse me?
Ethan Hall's not coming?
I am Ethan.
Oh, okay.
I recognize this. He's over here.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Ethan's on vacation, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
presenting myself.
All right, so next order of business, I have 171 Bay Street, Reese Rudolph. You can step up and state your name and your address, please.
My personal address or the address of the property we're talking about?
Okay, we would look for the personal address.
Your personal address and your relationship to the property.
So Reese Rudolph, 24 Nacy Road, Lake George, New York. I own 171 Bay Street, Glens Falls, New York.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your application, please?
Yeah, so on the first floor, there's a commercial unit, and I'm trying to ask to have it turned into a residential unit due to parking and having a shared driveway there.
I see you have a letter from a realtor that says that the commercial unit was on the market for over a year without being leased.
Correct.
I feel, to me, that sounds like sufficient economic data. I'll have to ask the rest of the gang what they think.
That
do we-
is amongst one of the items that can be provided as
Yes,
financial
yeah.
evidence.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Reese? Rudolph, I'm sorry.
So where would the residential tenants park their cars?
So we do have enough parking in the rear, but we have about 1.5 per apartment right now, and it's a shared driveway. So we could offer it to a tenant that has one vehicle or possibly 2, but for commercial, we can't provide more than 2 parking spots for them or stop them from taking the other tenants' parking.
So Bay Street is pretty wide and there's on-street parking there, correct?
Correct.
So a lot of commercial establishments downtown don't have dedicated parking.
Correct, and the tenants next door that share the driveway have had complaints because when it is commercial, it's a shared driveway, and we can't prevent them from parking in front of all their buildings in the rear. On the street, there's the parking in front of the building and in front of it, but that doesn't stop someone from pulling into a shared driveway and parking where they find parking.
And those
Okay, I
par-
just don't see the connection between commercial, the issue with commercial renters and the parking. If a lot of commercial establishments exist without parking, especially when there's available parking on the street.
This is further up Bay Street, so we're not getting a lot of people walking. It's a lot of vehicles parking out there, and I've tried renting it. I have had renters not take any lease with me for over a year. The neighbors have said that I won't have luck with it, and when they did have commercial there, they had issues with it. So that's kind of what I'm faced with.
Who was your commercial tenant?
I didn't have one. There was a salon there with one tenant,
Oh,
and the second I purchased it, they were never paying rent, and they left. And I was supposed to be the owner and operator, but I don't have a license to operate a salon. So I tried marketing as a commercial location, and we worked with Mark Levac, Tina Foglietto from Coldwell, and then Christine Foglietta, Christine Reynolds, and I went to all the agents that do commercial renting, and I tried my part in getting it rented.
How many parking spots are there total?
So there's 8.
Okay. And this is it would be 2 residential units?
So there's 4. There was a variance 15 years ago for approval to have it as a 4-unit with 1 commercial. So yes, there's enough parking for the tenants currently.
Are they all 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms?
They're 1 bedrooms. They're about
And the conversion would be for a 1 bedroom?
correct.
So you'll have a total of 5 1-bedroom apartments and 8 spots.
Correct. But these days, with boyfriend girlfriends, a lot of tenants that have a 1-bedroom have 2 vehicles. So, 8, believe it or not, 8 spots is really just enough. Because currently, if someone has someone over, there's just enough parking.
What is the zoning here? You said there's already a variance to have 4 units?
Correct. So I pulled a FOIL form on the property, and it's zoned to be 2 residential with 1 commercial, and there was a variance for 4 units with 1 commercial. So I'm asking to turn the 1 commercial to a residential.
Just 1?
Correct, just the one that is commercial. So I'd have 5 apartments.
It's in a 2-family residential district.
Yes, I'm just thinking the logistics of the actual variance that we're granting here would be
1 more unit.
Variance on top of the variance.
Yes.
yes, rather than, sometimes we see places where it's mandated commercial, it's on the first floor. I'm just trying to
But-
figure out what we're looking at.
The original zone is for
R2.
2-family, correct?
Yes.
So we're taking essentially, if you look at it that way, an analysis of a 2-family or multifamily. With that, we're eliminating the commercial aspect of it, which there has been proven for over a year to have no desire or ability to get anybody to come into that.
If I was able to rent it, I would have rented the property. That's
I'm just taking it point by where, so we can compare it by what it is today versus what you're looking for.
Yep.
But I think what you're talking about is, well, what is it actually originally zoned for pre the variance versus where is it going? And I would actually argue that, to me, the variance from 2-family to multifamily, we've seen that numerous times here, and that's an actual easier transition than the first, as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's pretty well documented that there is a glut of commercial property in Cogf Falls right now, probably nationally. So it doesn't surprise me that you were able to prove that you have a financial hardship or economic hardship in using this property as commercial property. So I would be inclined to approve. Does anyone else have any questions? So seeker.
With respect to seeker, I would again classify this as an unlisted action. It requires the board to review the short environmental assessment form part 2. Number 1, the proposed action
Do I need to
creates.
make the motion first?
Nope, I have to
Go ahead,
review the factors and then the motion.
Thanks.
Will the proposed action create a material conflict and adopt a land use plan or zoning regulation?
No.
No. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of land?
No.
No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
No. Number 4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No. Is everyone saying no?
No.
No. Thank you. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
No. Number 6, will the proposed action create an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonable available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
No. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies?
No.
No. Public-private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
No. Number 8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flooding or drainage problems?
No.
No. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
No. Based upon the board's review of the part two, you could declare lead agency and issue a negative declaration.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that the Glens Falls zoning board of appeals hereby accepts lead agency status for the property or the application at 171 Bay Street, Glens Falls. Owner agent of the property located at, I'm repeating myself, 171 Bay Street, Glens Falls. The board has determined the action to be unlisted action. We have reviewed the short form environmental assessment, and upon the documentation and discussion, we issue a negative declaration.
Need a second.
Second. Steve?
All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Your seeker motion is passed.
Thank you. All right. Next, I would like to make a motion to approve the request for a use variance at 171 Bay Street. Let's see, project identified by Maurice Rudolph at 171 Bay Street. Today, July 17th, 2023, pursuant to the following criteria and shown by the applicant, that the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return, and the lack of return is substantial as demonstrated by competent financial evidence as exemplified by the letter from the realtor that shows your financial hardship, and also by the well-known commercial properties that we have in Glens Falls. The hardship related to the property is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood. The requested use variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. The hardship is not self-created. Do I have a second?
Second, right?
Okay. Can we do roll call? Starting with Anton?
Aye.
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 We are unanimous and we have approved the use variance for 171 Main Street.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Handshake for the chairman, you're doing
All
great.
right. Agreed. All right, let's see.
Now we have area variance 23-003. Chris Patton, owner of tax map 302.20-17-6, commonly known as 3 West Washington Street and 5 West Washington Street, seeking an area variance for relief from the minimum required front, side, and rear setback for construction of the new apartment building.
How's it going all? I'm Chris Patton at 20 Ridgewood Court, and I'm not the owner of the parcels yet in question, but I am speaking on behalf of those owners, and they've elected me agent, I guess.
Contract ND.
Yes, correct, thank you.
Okay.
When you're ready, go ahead and tell us a little bit about the
Yeah, so
application.
this project was, I've learned to really reach out to the city to see what their needs are before I actually go looking for parcels or anything for that matter. So I reach out to the mayor, I reach out to Jeff Flagg in economic development, and I ask, what parcels do you see that could potentially be developed into something that could help you guys, and obviously take care of a demand or a need of the city. So affordable housing is one, and so Jeff Flagg actually presented the opportunity to combine the two parcels, one owned by Mr. Hoffman and then one owned by the Travelers Building, which I thought it was kind of crazy to put both of those deals together. And one day, Peter he contracted both of these properties, and he actually called me direct and said, "Hey Chris, you did a great job on Union. Would you be interested in potentially putting these together?" And I was like, I kind of laughed at Jeff Flagg, the potential to put two big parcels like that and combine them. I thought it was crazy, but after Hoffman's call, I said, yeah, for sure. So this is what we've done. I've worked with Ethan. I've put together, I think what you would agree, I hope, a pretty beautiful building, and two buildings actually, a 20-plex and an 8-plex. And I can tell you, the city is in need of a bunch of apartments for sure. I don't know if you all have heard that, but I put one Facebook ad on for a one-bedroom apartment in the city, and I got over 15,000 clicks. So that, I mean, even if you said 10% of those people are actually legitimately looking for an apartment here in the city, whatever we're doing, you guys are doing, zoning board, planning board, you know, the restaurants, the downtown, it's all working because you have a demand of people that want to be here. These are not just, you know, random people. They're people that are coming in for new jobs. I have tons of like new teachers. I have, you know, nurses and, you know, some doctors. I have retired pharmacists that are looking for apartments. And it's across the board. The demand is unreal. So with the Union Street project, you know, I referenced that. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. I have over 150 applicants, which I only have 20 units. And so that was very challenging, you know, just to be selected and make sure we're, you know, staying in line and first come, first serve and the whole nine. So, but we're 100% full. So I'm looking really to hopefully get into something like this. The demand for one bedroom seems to be stronger than two bedrooms, and that's why I proposed all one bedrooms on this project. I mean, if I had 500 one bedroom apartments right now, I'd have 500 occupancies for sure. The reliefs I'm looking for are only area reliefs. Congrats on the last use variance guy. That's a challenging thing to get. I know, I've been there. So the area variances, though they seem a little bit extensive based on the current setbacks, the setbacks obviously were developed after, I believe, I can't speak because I wasn't live, but when the houses that were constructed on Harlem Street and the other adjacent roads, when they were built, they certainly don't meet in any way the current setbacks that are there. So yes, I'm asking for reliefs. Am I conforming with the neighborhood? We're beyond conforming with the neighborhood. We're actually back beyond the house spaces that are there. The only one that's a little bit dicey, I guess, or for lack of better words, is we're looking for relief on, I wish I had the site plan on a bit larger for you. I'm sure you all have it. The 2.9 is the most aggressive area variance that we're looking for that's on the front of
3 West Washington Street.
That's correct, yep, on the
20
20plex.
units, 3.
Yep, thank you. So on 3 West, we're looking for relief on that front corner there. And I spoke with Ethan, and you know, we made sure that the construction of the building wasn't so deep that it actually pushed out and actually blocked the view of traffic from Harlem Street whatsoever. The other reasons why I think you should, you know, weigh in favor of all the area variances that I'm asking for. You know, currently everyone knows what's there. It's a parking lot. It's 100% paved, and with COVID and all the things that have happened, I think it's made the Travelers Building really restructure. 325 has restructured a lot of their businesses. So where they had a full building and everybody was working out of there, it's kind of like changed a bit. So they don't need as much of the overflow parking. That, in addition to the fact that they have the 3-story high-rise parking garage. So it seems that, and actually my people on Glen Street park there as well. So it seems to be working. It's handled all their parking necessities. And for that reason, they've sold off these other 3 properties that are around. So what that means to me is that we have a dead parcel. So I hope that you guys, a kind of a dead parcel essentially. You know, you have, if you've driven by there, and I have every day for the last year, you may have 4 to 5 cars there daily. And so it's essentially just this, big open, completely paved parking lot. Obviously planning board stuff, but there's no permeability whatsoever. So everything that hits that parking lot is washing in the street. And I know going into the planning board, I'm not going to be required to provide any green area or any permeability for that matter because we're grandfathered in. Same thing that happened on Union Street. If you guys followed that project, I don't know if you have or not, but what we did provide was so we were able to, the planning board actually granted us the ability to just run the existing grades off onto the existing parking lot, and I had to do no drainage whatsoever because I wasn't required to because it was 100% impervious anyways. What we did is built a 200-foot long trench. We put huge catch basins in. We took care of all of our water. We built a wall separating the 2 properties. We took all of our roof water that comes down off obviously the roof and put it into large gutters, and we put infiltrators in the ground, and we took care of all of our roof water as well. So the same thing is going to happen on this property, and so it's going to better the permeability rate of that parcel. We're going to take care of our roof water just the same way we did on the Union Street project. We're going to provide beautiful apartments. I sent Dan Bruno, commissioner, he's the leader of the planning board. I had shot him some photographs of the types of apartments that we're putting out. the units that we're putting here at this property, they have, granite countertops, they have hard surface flooring, they have, all the amenities that everybody's looking for today. I'm trying to really build something for longevity here in the city, and I hope you guys see that. So that's it.
Can you speak to that? Like, is there a way to do this without the variances?
Really, so how I got to the quantity of apartments and the size of the buildings, it all comes down to parking, as everyone knows. Parking is obviously another variance that I could request, relief from, but you all know as well as I don't really want to have, I don't want to have parking issues on my properties. I don't want to have a tenant that doesn't have a place to park. I have to put them out in the streets, and then we all know winter comes. So we have 1.5 spaces right now, and we meet that, and we actually exceed it. But once we have, 3 feet of snow on the ground, it's like, boom, there goes, half a dozen spots. And so we're really looking for that parking requirement. And so financially, this property works, and I won't disclose the price that I had to pay for the 2 parcels, but it is substantially higher than that of the one on Union Street. So running the numbers with the bank, and I'm working with Adirondack Trust, who's already committed to financing this project as it's been designed. And again, backing into the parking that we presented on this plan, that's where we established, what we could potentially build for units, and then, running the numbers to make sure that 28 units at 1 bedroom at today's market price, which at Union Street, I'm getting $1,000 a month, so 28,000, yada yada. So, but it works out pretty good with the total budget that I proposed to Adirondack Trust, and I've done a lot of homework here before I came to the board today. But it's what works, and I'm hoping you guys, see that as well.
Do we have questions for Mr. Patton?
So to me, I think some of the variance requests are pretty extreme, 2 foot specifically.
Yep.
You could argue, I understand corner lots. I live on a corner lot, so it's difficult in that sense, that you get kind of pushed
Both ways.
a little more. Yeah.
Sure.
However, instead of having a 20, if you had an 18, you have about 16 feet plus or minus 15 and a half feet, limiting one of the units, slide it back. Your variance request might still be requested for that, might be necessary, you still wouldn't meet it,
Yeah, they would.
but it would be much more palatable than
Sure.
2 foot change on top of that.
Agreed.
I understand you're gonna lose 2 units, it's less economic. So speaking to your parking spot, I guess you'd have 2 extra spots, then you wouldn't.
Or 3 extra spots.
3,
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I'm not a fan of pulling the building out right on to the sidewalk. We are not that dense of a city, or at least in that area, and I'll just say, I'm an architect, I appreciate definition of edges of buildings and green space and permeability from a LEED standpoint. I'm a green architect, I like that a lot. I just think that maybe, in my opinion, losing a unit and shrinking that down, I still think you'd have to come back with a variance, but it'd be a lot more palatable to me than, honestly, just grossly exceeding the requirements.
Yeah, we are in a GC1 district, so it is downtown.
Yep.
I can understand your opinions on that, but I really do feel like I'm not really going outside of conforming with the neighborhood properties. There are quite a few that are literally right on the sidewalk. So that's I guess my only argument to that. We are kind of a dense city. I fly airplanes. I fly over this whole area, and it amazes me how many houses we have in such a small area. We are pretty dense, and so I would argue that I would really love to have the amount of units that I have, and I would really love that to be granted to me. So I don't think I'm asking for anything outside of the current housing that's there, really. So, and we've also proposed some nicer things. So obviously on the this thing we've proposed like it's architectural detail and throwing stone in there. I don't want it to be just another run-of-the-mill building. Also, the trees that are there are not just for imagery, it's to actually bring trees into that downtown area, and to bring bushes and stone and all that. So I really don't think it's a problem. But
You're adding trees and
That's correct.
building in the sidewalk, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm going to add.
You also, the parcel that you're buying from Mr. Hoffman is green space that you're preserving.
That's correct.
You're gonna mow it?
Yes, I am. Actually, my goal, Karen, would be and it's really a reason why, because I want to have like a long standing here in the city. And this is this is the fifth of I hope to have 20 more buildings like this and project sites all over the city. And so that little corner there, that 16 foot that extends to Bay Road, my goal would be to come back to the planning board or the zoning board and ask for quite an extensive sign. I want to do like patent property management, some gold lettering stuff, have it lit at night, and really do like a whole landscape thing. Of course, mow it and keep it something pristine because it's it's adjacent to Hoffman's building, and he's someone I look up to, and so that's Bay Road in Washington. I mean, it's a huge marketing tool there, and so I have quite a bit of units in the city, and I'm hoping to keep it going.
I would like to add, to put on the record, just in the conversation of housing, the critical need that we have for housing in the area, statewide. I know that the state government had entertained considerable measures to institute a version of state zoning ordinances to facilitate the creation of more housing. That did not advance, and I would like to think that at the local level we can work with our private developers to bring in housing that one way or another is going to happen in the near future. And I think the area that you're speaking to, looking at to develop it, is just the parking lot right now. It's a lot of wasted space over there. This would be a fantastic project and fit a significant need for the city.
I agree.
If you're adding some greenery, I think it checks a lot of boxes.
I agree.
I think that the 20-foot setback is not necessarily in accordance with the urban environment in which these parcels are set.
Right.
Surface parking is certainly not an ideal use of properties on corners in downtown. So I think that this is an overall improvement, and you'll bringing the buildings forward would create that urban environment.
Yeah. I'm actually told that some of the units that I'm putting out on Union Street are way underpriced, but so to talk about I guess affordable homes, affordable housing, these are going to be marketed around $1,000 to $1,100 a month. We're doing mini splits with heat pumps, with backup electrical. We're doing washers and dryers in the units, so we're not going to be we're not going to be taking over the washer and dryer facilities around town. I mean, everybody has their own spot. We're bringing in some pretty good clientele, and not only is it going to help me, and obviously it's an economic gain for myself and my company and everybody that I work with, but bringing those types of people, it really just helps the entire city. And it's definitely a nice walking distance there. And you know what that street is missing is something like this. It has all the right lighting. For whatever reason, it just doesn't seem that the lighting that they did for I don't know how many years ago, but that street's probably one of the nicest lit streets in the city. It just needs a little pick-me-up, maybe a kick-me in the butt for some of the houses and some of the homes on that street to really accelerate some of that revitalization. And I think my Union Street project, and I know it, I don't have to say, every neighbor that walks down that road, there's a few people at the planning board that weren't about it. They thought, the traffic was going to increase. That didn't happen. Traffic is all on Union Street. It's amazing. And, the people that walk there at night, well, I guess I didn't really speak about lighting, but dead parking lots, what are they? They're spots for crime. There's great lighting on the street, but this parking lot isn't lit at all. We do, automatic site lighting that comes on with photo cells. And so we're doing LED lights, we're going to light the whole thing up, and it's really, we do, on Union we have 7 different cameras that, they cross-reference each other, so you can't set foot on my property at Union Street without having a camera there. And let's be honest, there's really not a bad area in the city of Glens Falls. We have, one murder every decade, and it's something silly, but, to say that this isn't a neighborhood in need of a little bit of help, I think would be, not telling the full truth.
Are you putting cameras in here?
100%. I do them on every single building. The police officers in the city of Glens Falls call me probably half a dozen times a year for footage for random traffic violations and accidents and such on Glen Street. The same thing I'm sure will start to develop on Union because of the 24-hour Cumbies. Let's not go there, but we all know that that's a problem that maybe needs to be addressed in the future. Either way, the lights, the cameras, you know, accessibility, and all this is only going to help all the problems that are potentially there. Yeah, I believe that we proposed a fence, and I did the same fencing on Union Street that I would propose to do here. I mean, I don't want through traffic. I don't want people cutting across the property.
There's a fence referenced on
On the site plan, usually about 3 feet.
right, they are 3-foot
Yep.
fences.
And so I do a black wrought iron, you know, or aluminum, excuse me.
Right next to the White House, right?
Yep. In the White House, and you know, once I own this property, they have easements to get in and out of there, and so I have no problems with keeping the same easements or arguing anything about that. I don't want to go on their property and.
They have a shed on their property?
Yeah, which is another. It doesn't matter to me, you know. It's all good over there.
When, assuming, you get over the hurdle, whatever you can get over, when do you anticipate breaking ground?
ASAP, assuming we get the variances that we need today, Adirondack Trust is already on board to finance the entire project. Our next step would be the planning board, which we've already done site plan review. Ethan presented this similar project. Sketch plans, thank you, Karen. So he had already presented it. There was not one person had any problems with it. They were all about it, and so it was Ethan's assumption that everything would be smooth in August, assuming we were okay here tonight. So they were in favor. You know, again, Jeff Flagg and the mayor as well. So I've learned not to fight. Just whatever you want me to do. Yes, sir.
I'm totally in favor of developing unused land for occupied land that are residents, that are going to be gainfully employed, obviously, and people who want to live here. I think that's great. My only contention is how pushed out it is.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the same project with 26 lots as it would be with 28, except it just won't be right up on the edge of the street.
Well,
I'm not in my opposition to how far out. We would still be working with you.
Sure.
We just wouldn't be giving up, let's just say 35 feet of setback into 10 feet. We'd be 35 into, I don't know, something like 15 square feet, to 15 to 20.
Are you talking Harlem Street or Washington?
Be the corner of Harlem.
We're talking about the corner of Harlem and Washington.
What's the issue?
That it's 2 foot 9 inches away back
From the
sidewalk.
from the
setback.
Okay.
From the setback. So, not to argue at all, but what you're asking for from me is a reduction in total revenue of $26,000, $26,400 annually. So that's significant at what you're requesting. So it's if at $1,100 a month for an apartment, that times 2,200 times 12, you're asking for almost $30,000 of reduction in income, which is not a little. I mean, it's a lot. It's a big
Oh,
deal.
you get that in your back.
Not only that, it's the debt
Plus the
services.
revenue.
It's the taxes. It's the revenue. It's the mortgage. It's the debt services. It's the water bills. I mean, this is what I propose is what works financially. From the and let's be honest. I mean, rates are not what they were a year ago. They're 6.25. I'm getting mortgage rates at 6.45 for investment property. It's not easy. And to hold these super low numbers, it's really, this is what works. I don't want to share the price of the property, but it's more than 2.5 times what I paid on Union. So it's not something that's super lucrative, to your point. It's not something that I'm just going to get rich on quick. This is a 20-year long-term plan. So.
I think that Allison's point, it's an urban infill, so it's not unusual to see it closer to
Agreed.
the street as possible because it's an urban infill. It's not-
I mean, it's GC1. It's our downtown district.
To me, it seems like it fits the character of the neighborhood. There is as I recall, there's sort of an apartment building from East Notre Dame that comes right up to the sidewalk there. So it's similar to that. Not to respectfully disagree. I feel like the implication is that we do have the city of Glens Falls, and sometimes we need to be a city, which is a dense urban area, especially if it helps us find housing for people who need it.
Yeah, once this building is done, it'll be full within. I mean, I filled Union Street in 2.5 weeks. I mean, if I could have just processed the amount of applications faster, we would have been full quicker. But I have a waiting list of now 75 people that I'm kind of steering them towards this, like, give me some time, but, within hopefully 6 to 8 months, to your point, if we get through that hurdle, I hope to have a dried-in building, and, 2 buildings rather dried in before the snow flies if everything goes well. And so I'd hope to finish, sometime next summer.
Filling the units next summer, you said?
Say again?
Filling the units?
Yes,
next
of
summer?
course, yeah. I mean, in the perfect world, obviously you're all from here. So like if we're able to get framed up, get dried in, which is, roof shingles, windows, and then, start to bring the temporary heat, and we're working through, all of our plumbing and our mechanicals throughout the winter months, and then we get into drywall right when the spring breaks, we don't have to put all the temporary heat to dry all the mud. And that's like the, perfect scenario. And then we finish sometime middle to end of summer. So that's what I'm hoping for.
I mean,
Looking at the picture, we're looking at 2 stories.
Correct.
Correct. As a way of reducing the footprint, we thought about 3 stories.
I have, yep. And so financially, the 3-story building, it's so as if you were to just do 20 units, you really couldn't. You have to go more square footage, then you go higher, and so it's on Union Street, those numbers don't work. I mean, the amount of staircases, the amount of windows that get involved. I'm actually looking forward to doing a 2-story building because it's a little bit more cost effective. So.
building codes will be changing in '26, so I'm wondering what kind of impact that will have on development, at least in the first couple of years with energy requirements from the state. So, I mean, if we have a ready developer now, then, I mean, it's putting together a pretty well-developed plan, right?
It's probably the single part of the building code that's developed the most in the last 10 years, the energy requirements, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're R49 on the lids on Union. I'm sure we'll have to maintain that R49, on the lids again here. And so, I mean, what's nice is that I actually get feedback from all my tenants because I don't rent an apartment without asking, if you don't mind me asking, like, what was your average utility bill? On these apartments, the 1-bedrooms starts $75 a month. I mean, that's with the washers and dryers, and they got, it's like $75 a month. That's unheard of. So, I mean, we're obviously doing something right on the constructability standpoints.
Do we have other questions? Do we have any public comment?
I'm sorry, I was listening to.
That's all right. Should we have Mr. Patton sit for a moment?
Sure.
Thank you. You could please, sorry?
Yeah, I know.
Okay. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mark Hoffman. My home address is 32 Fox Hollow Lane in Queensbury. I'm here primarily because I'm president of Congregation Shari Tefillah, which is the building that is and property which makes up the majority of the border with this project. Had a number of concerns. The project is in 2 pieces. There's a building adjacent to Harlem Street and a building adjacent to Washington Street. And I've only looked briefly at this, and I have to apologize. I really couldn't see anything that was being presented, and I had difficulty hearing much of what was said tonight. I understand there was a previous planning board meeting. I wasn't aware of that. I received a notice of a planning board meeting that was early in the month, but the date of the notice was actually after the meeting.
Right.
And then I received...
Right, the code office sent out the notice and it was in error, so they could not vote on anything. So anyone that was on the agenda, it was considered sketch plan review as opposed to site plan review.
Okay.
So that's going to be heard again
Okay.
at the August planning board for
Okay.
the actual site plan review.
Thank you.
Tonight is just the zoning board to address setbacks.
Okay. So in terms of the 2 buildings, I'm less concerned about the larger building adjacent to Harlem Street. We do have extensive property adjacent to that also, but there would be, it looks from his sketches like there is a parking, he will be putting a parking lot between his building and our property. So we won't have a building immediately right next to our property. I'm not entirely sure how many spaces, parking spaces he has planned. We heard earlier from this gentleman who was asking for a variance to go to residential that one spot per apartment may not be enough for residential, and it doesn't look like there's much more than one spot per apartment in his.
I think there's more than 1.5.
Mr. Pat's indicating 1.5.
Yeah, it's greater
I
than
think that's the requirement, I think they're exceeding.
So I guess my concern regarding that is that the Continental Insurance, whatever, the building is not fully occupied now, but we can't know that that's going to be the case indefinitely. Hopefully, commercial property will again become viable and they will need parking. Other parking will be needed. I understand there's a overnight parking restriction in the city of Glens Falls, so anybody that is in an apartment and has a visitor, or heaven forbid they should have more than one car per apartment, then they'll be competing with the general population for
Can I give you
on-street
this?
parking.
This is the site plan.
Okay, I've seen it online, but I haven't.
Okay, well, there basically 38 spots.
38. So, in terms of the other building, it looks to me like the setback to our property, he needs a variance for that.
Yes.
And, I mean, when I brought up this we didn't, because of time constraints, I haven't really formally presented it to the congregation, but pretty much everyone that I spoke to in the congregation thought that it was ridiculous that he would be putting up an apartment building in that little sliver of land off of Washington Street. It's really very, very narrow. He's basically taking advantage of the fact that we have a driveway there. Otherwise, all these windows that he's got in the back of the building, they wouldn't, the only reason that they have anything to look at except for a brick wall right there is because we have a driveway. So rather than having, following setbacks, and basically he's using our parking lot and our driveway as something that he can put windows into the back of his apartment to. I mean, if we built a building right up to where we were, or
But
where
you
we
have
would be
setback
allowed
requirements
to.
too.
Right,
Everybody has setback.
right. But,
You couldn't build your building right up to the lot line, just like he can.
right, and so I'm saying, why is he then? We can't, and why should he be able to?
You would have to go for a variance request
And right, when-
to do that, just like he's doing.
So when we went for a variant request at that point, there would already be a building within a foot or so of our property. So how are we gonna get a variance at that point?
His request is that the rear yard setback is 15 foot for that 8-unit building. He's asking that it be 5 feet 2 inches. He's asking for relief of 9 foot 10 inches.
So he's gonna build up to 9 feet.
5 feet.
Up to 5 feet.
Instead
From the
okay.
line.
Okay, so that's basically about a foot less than I am tall. So 5 feet is a very short distance from our property.
From your property line.
Right,
It'll be another 5 feet to the building.
correct. I think that's very, very small. In
Are you
terms,
concerned with the presence of the building imposing on the quality of your backyard, which is a parking lot?
I am concerned about, number one, I'm concerned about security. Right now, our parking lot and driveway are visually accessible to Washington Street. So,
He's already said he's gonna have cameras on his.
well, we have cameras too, but once somebody comes by and shoots up a congregation, it's too late.
So if I just understand your security aspect,
Yeah.
the fact that something is there instead of nothing being there, you can't directly see because there's a building in the way.
Correct.
Well, then you're anti-building, period, whether he's properly set back.
Well, no, because we're not objecting to the other building. We're just objecting to we would like it to be more reasonable. And, you know, squeezing that 8 units into that small space and completely blocking off our exposure from Washington Street, it's a concern. I wouldn't say that's, you know, that maybe that's not wouldn't be enough, but it's one of many concerns that we have.
I think he's softening up that, if I'm talking about that area in relation to your backyard, your parking lot.
Yeah.
He's softened up the edge with the greenery,
It looks kind of.
and I don't know how secure, you could argue security, like, hey, somebody's waiting for somebody in the backyard. I mean,
It's
okay.
real. It's a real problem. I
It's
mean,
a real problem.
we've already been threatened. There was a man several years ago who was arrested for making a threat to the Jewish institutions in our
Yeah, it was a
city.
person who was incarcerated who made threats to the 2 temples here in town.
Right.
So what I'm seeing is the corner of Sharita Field building would be, we have the new apartment building right here in this corner. But then you'd still have access visually to Washington Street, and it looks like there's trees being planted here. It looks like it's going to be very pretty. It's going to be kind of a win. And then, I mean, as far as the security goes, having people in this apartment building,
Those are more eyes on that.
yeah, they're keeping an eye on things. They're not in
Yeah,
danger. They're the
well,
ones that are going to
they're-
be better than
You
being
don't
in
think
line, in my opinion.
somebody's gonna move in there just to target here.
No, it's not somebody's going to move in. My
I think it's
concern is
visual observation.
visual. If a police car drives down Washington Street, he can see our he can see our parking lot now. And that would be completely blocked off by that building. So it's a concern.
The other temple in town has a similar issue where there's no line of sight to the back parking lot. I'm not aware of any issues that
Yeah.
happen. Thank God.
I would point out that you don't own that parking lot. But
You're not wrong.
I mean, as far as protection like that goes, the biggest, in urban planning, the biggest protection you can possibly have is illumination. So if extra protection is what you want, or a sense of that, some lighting in there would obviously help, because someone can't be hiding in the shadows, so to speak. You know what I mean? I think that's something that's very common in urban situations, period. If you look at historically over the last 60 years, since the 60s till now, there's been books written about light is the biggest criminal deterrent that exists.
well, we have a light there now that we pay National Grid for, but I don't think, my concern is that may not be enough. So I've mentioned the parking, I've mentioned the security, I've mentioned the very small setback, which is an issue of equitability. If we or a successor to us in the future wanted to develop, would we be granted that same variance? I think by that point, given how close he is to our driveway, probably not. The answer would be no, most likely.
Like you would want to extend the temple back and
I don't know, I'm just saying,
Well, I'm just asking
in the
what would be
future,
conceptual in what
That's
you would
your
build.
driveway here.
Yeah, you'd be building your driveway, so you'd be
Taking
who
away
knows what we
access.
would do? We have,
Something we look at is character of the neighborhood. So
Right.
so actually, having something already up to a 5-foot setback would speak to that, to an additional building, having
Right.
an equivalent setback would speak more
would we
to-
even have 5 feet at that point?
It's on your side, yeah, you would have it on your, so it's from the
So
property.
you'd be 10, if you did
Yes.
the same that she's saying, you'd be 10 feet apart, building face to building.
Mhm.
But she's describing, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm just saying, it feels like you're saying, yes, everything sets a precedence for something else.
Mhm.
So if some, no?
We do not set a precedent, but
Well, I'm just
but
saying
it's the
you're
character of the
establishing
neighborhood.
characteristics.
Yes.
Meaning if this is 5 feet, then we would accept that as, well, that's kind of something that's going on in that area.
Yes.
Precedence in that sense.
I did also want to mention, there's been a lot of talk about the building on Union Street. I don't know, I guess you guys have seen that building? Have you seen it?
I've seen it.
Yes.
I mean,
We voted on it for very.
have you seen it in real life since it's been built?
Correct.
Okay,
I've been down Goodwin, I've been down Union.
okay. It's very sparse, I would be very surprised if that stays in good condition or in good status for the next 10 years. I just feel like it's, to me, it looks like a prison barracks.
We might be going off task here.
Yeah,
Let's
we
try
are
to focus
unfortunately are
on this
not,
project.
we're not tasked with how things look. We're the zoning board, so
Mhm.
we're only considering the setback right now.
Okay, I wanted to mention just affordability. I'm totally in favor of affordability. That's why we're not opposed to the entire project, just this one area where it comes extremely close to our property and to our building. There are many very lovely, affordable projects in Glens Falls, some of which are subsidized. When I first moved to town in 1986, I drove by Henry Hudson townhouses, and I thought, gee, I'd like to live there. And I was disappointed to find out that they weren't available because there was public housing. So and they've changed it now that it was torn down and rebuilt as Village Green. It's beautiful, it's lovely, but it's not, I don't see that what he's doing is, to me, it's just like warehousing people.
I think I might be misremembering.
Right, I think your comments are more for site plan review, which will be before the planning board the first Tuesday of August
Okay.
at 4:45.
I just wanted to, if indeed he builds the larger building, the option exists to leave the other spaces either as additional parking or as some other amenity. He can use his imagination. It could be a private park that his tenants could use. It could be a sitting area. It could be a playground, something that would enhance the value of his property, and it would be less objectionable to us. It would be less objectionable to the neighborhood. It would be a positive impact. That would be my suggestion for that very narrow area along the border of Washington Street.
Thank you very much. Would you like to speak, Mr. Patton, in terms of the security line of sight or that building maybe too close?
I can't disagree any stronger with that. The parking lot on Union Street.
Would you mind putting up so we can hear on
Yeah,
the
please.
Thank you.
The parking lot on Union Street, it was interesting what we found there when we purchased the property, and I won't go into details too much, but basically there was just signs of drug use and illicit sex and all kinds of stuff. So to say that the parking lots there on Harlem Street, without the lighting that the city put in, that beautified that street, which is crazy. Without that lighting, I think the same things that were happening over on Union, which the police thank me for all the lights that we put in there, and they drive by every night, and all the neighboring properties, all the neighbors that live there, the guy's been there for 35 years. He's like, what an improvement to the neighborhood. So I can't disagree any stronger with whoever that man was with his comments, but certainly in regards to safety and security, cameras and lights, stop crime, that's it. There's no...
It might be helpful just to introduce you two to each
Sure.
other. Mark Hoffman is the president of Charlotte
I see.
He'll be your neighbor. So.
I would
I'm a
say-
great neighbor.
I remember that Union Street property, and you did have a lot of neighbors here who were opposed to it. So
Agreed.
I think that, as the project moves along, if you can communicate
I already
with neighbors.
understand.
you can-
1,000%. Yeah, I mean, it was rough. I mean, I was doing a couple other projects in South Glens Falls, so I mean, it was kind of a, it was a construction site for a long, long time. And then in the last few weeks, I don't know how long the fence has been there, but, we don't even have a planting plan in place. But we didn't have a fence that was proposed out on Union Street. I went the extra mile. We didn't have to put a 205-foot long concrete wall that separated the property and put all the drainage and, 14-foot tall, which again worked with my neighbor at 425, District 425. They had no lighting in the back of their property, the back of their parking lot. So I reached out to Don Sweetser and Dawn Davidson, and they actually foot the bill for half of the lights, and we did dual LED lights all the way down that wall, which provided them a ton of extra light. If anyone hasn't been there at night, I mean, I know it's not dark until 9:30, but take a drive by. It's lighting is 360 degrees around the building. We have probably over 40 different light fixtures. I mean, it's amazing. Even the back little alley, and we were close to the property line there, maybe 10 or 12 feet. It was something that was very concerning to me. And we put that fence back in. We replaced it. We put the privacy mesh in there just to kind of make people feel safe. And then we lit that whole back alley. So.
Do you have a fence? I'm sorry, I can't see. It's too small. Is there a fence between the smaller building and the driveway to Shriggs, if you're there?
As of right now, no. If it would make him happy, I would certainly offer any type of fencing that he would like. I mean, but again, put a fence in there, then it barricades somebody back there. I mean, to put lighting and cameras.
Okay, beyond the scope again.
But yeah, the fence that's there currently is kind of dilapidated between the two parcels. So it would be my intention to remove that fence, and it's on the property line. So I want to give the most amount of parking spaces and the most amount of distance for turnarounds. So I'll end up replacing that fence and then doing the trees that are proposed there that are on our plan. Yeah. But yeah, lights and cameras. Crime is not really existent with them. So.
All right. Thank you. We're considering there's two seekers.
I'm going to do one.
Okay. And it's
Yeah.
one application.
Right, so with respect to seeker for area variance 23-003, properties at 3 and 5 West Washington Street, tax map number 302.20-17-6 and 3. I would classify this as an unlisted action. It's an area variance relative to commercial use. Therefore, the short environmental form is required. So the board has to answer the following 11 questions. Will the proposed action create material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation?
No.
No. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of land? No. No, isn't it moderate? Minor or no impact? It's a use variance. Does the use variance create a change in the use or intensity of the use?
So we're looking for an area.
Number 3.
Area, right?
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affecting existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No or small impact? Small impact? It's in the commercial district. Number 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water? No. Public-private wastewater treatment? No. Number 8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? No. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No. So based upon this, the board could actually issue a negative declaration.
I would like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Zoning Board of Appeals hereby accepts lead agency status for
Area variance 23-003,
located at 3 and 5 Washington,
West Washington
West
Street.
Washington Street, Glens Falls. The board has determined this action to be unlisted.
Unlisted action.
Has reviewed the short form environmental assessment form, and upon documentation and discussion, we issue a negative declaration. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? I'm going to do roll call.
You can just do all of them.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstains? Motion moves.
Seeker is approved.
Okay. As far as the motion for the variance, we're considering this in one piece?
Correct. So you have 5 variances with respect to 3 West Washington Street, 20 units. The front yard setback proposed is 2 feet 9 inches. The side yard is 8 feet 0 inches. That's for the 20-unit building. So the relief requested is 17 feet 3 inches for the front yard and 7 feet for the side yard. With respect to 5 Washington Street, which is the 8-unit, there's 3 area variances being requested. Front yard proposed is 16 feet 3 inches. That's relief of 3 foot 9 inches. Side yard is proposed is 10 feet 7 inches. Requested 4 feet 5 inches. And rear yard requirement is 15 feet. Proposed is 5 foot 2 inches. Requesting a 9 foot 10 inch relief.
Okay. So, I'm not sure how we all stand on this, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve and we'll see how it goes. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to grant the application for an area variance for the project identified as 3 and 5 West Washington Streets, as presented at the meeting on July 17th, pursuant to the following criteria shown by the applicant. Do I need to restate what you just said as far as all these changes?
No, I mean, it's on the application that's been proposed. I just clarified it for the
Thank you.
record.
I'm glad you did. I do not believe that there will be an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to the nearby properties that will be created by the granting of the area variance. I feel like some of the buildings are already very close together in that part of town. The benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other feasible method due to the economics of the building and the development. The area variance is substantial, but I don't feel that there is another way to achieve this project without that variance. The proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. It also appears to me that there will be an improvement to the environmental and physical conditions. And while this difficulty is self-created, I don't believe that this should preclude the granting of the area variance. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, starting with Anton. Okay. Steve?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
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 I feel like we have
Four yeses, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses.
to 2 no's.
Motion carries. Variance granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I will show you guys that I will continue to build throughout the city and bring more projects to the table, for sure.
Keep those trees.
Thank you
Yeah.
for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great night.
At this point, I would like to make a motion to, so what I'm looking for, close, adjourn the July 17th meeting of the Glens Falls Zoning Board of Appeals. Do I have a second? Second. All in
favor?
favor, thank you.